What's going on, guys? It's your boy Steve and welcome to my channel Fantasy Studs. Now in today's video, I'm gonna make it a quick one. We're talking about 3 booms and 3 busts for this 2018 fantasy football season. Now before I get into the video, if you guys haven't already subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you click that subscribe button, show your boy some love, and maybe check out some more videos on my channel when you're done watching this one. Alright, now you guys know I don't mess around. Let's get right into the video. Starting off, I'm gonna start off with the busts first, get the bad news out the way, and then tell you guys who I think are going to be the booms of the season. So starting off at my first bust, we have Robert Woods on the Los Angeles Rams. You guys know I like drafting players on powerhouse offenses, but the too many mouths to feed, that does come into play in certain scenarios. So let's look at the Los Angeles Rams offense. We have Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks, and then most people would say next in line is Robert Woods. He has an ADP of 84. That's higher than the man I'm about to mention next in Cooper Kupp. Now, if you guys follow my videos, you might be getting sick of me mentioning this man, Cooper Kupp, but I'm a firm believer that he's going to have a great season this year. Last year, his rookie season, he was second, and I know I say the stat all the time. Cooper Kupp, his rookie season, he was second in the NFL in red zone targets. That's above guys like Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and all that. And of course, now having some experience under his belt in this offense, coming in his sophomore year, him and Jared Goff are just going to have that much more chemistry together, especially in the red zone. So, let's bring this back to Robert Woods. He's been in the NFL for 5 years and just has never had a breakout season. He's also been fighting injuries. I think he's only played 1 season where he actually played all 16 games. So, in my opinion, I see his ADP at 84, which is actually much higher than Cooper Kupp. I'm not buying it. I think Robert Woods will be a bust this season in the real NFL and in fantasy football. Now, coming in next for bust is my man Devin Funchess. His ADP is 83rd overall. He had 8 touchdowns last season, which is actually very impressive. But let's not forget that the Panthers were missing Greg Olsen all year, which is Cam Newton's favorite target. And on top of that, they actually went out and drafted, talking about the Panthers, they went out and drafted a wide receiver in the first round this year in the draft, which kind of shows that they're really not putting too much trust in Devin Funchess, and they actually believe that they're very thin on wide receivers, which they are. He had his time to shine last year. He did get 8 touchdowns, but he really still wasn't that impressive. The Panthers had the ability to be a real powerhouse offense. It seemed like him and Cam Newton just didn't really click off that well, which, again, I think is why they went out and drafted a wide receiver. You also have to think they have C.J. Anderson and Christian McCaffrey, 2 receiving backs. So yeah, not much more to be said about Devin Funchess. He had a good season last year, 8 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to repeat it this year. I will not buy into the hype. I'm a big fan of Cam Newton and that Panthers offense, but I just think Devin Funchess, he's going a little bit too early in fantasy drafts, and I don't think he'll hit that 8 touchdown mark that he hit last year. If Greg Olsen gets hurt again, that might change the conversation a little bit, but still, I just don't know. It just didn't seem like they were clicking too much. It seems like he's just going to be a less good version of Kelvin Benjamin. Alright, and my last bust for this video is Evan Ingram. I already made a video on him. I highly respect him as an athlete. Proved himself last season, but I just don't think that his stats last season are going to transfer over to this season. Last year, they're pretty much the New York Giants, the whole entire wide receiver core went down with OBJ, Shepard, and Brandon Marshall. They didn't really have a run game. He was really the only guy on that offense that Eli Manning could really feasibly throw to. With that scenario, he really proved himself and showed that he is one of the best tight ends in the league, talent-wise. But now this year, the New York Giants offense, they got OBJ back, they got Shepard back, they drafted Saquon Barkley. I just don't see him having as good of a year as he did last year. And I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year. I think he'll still be a productive tight end, and I think he'll still be a top tight end in fantasy. But I just see him going over guys like Kyle Rudolph. Some people are taking him over Travis Kelce. I see him going over Greg Olsen. I'm just not buying into that, guys. I think his ADP is way too high. Again, I think he'll have a good year this year. I think he's an amazingly talented tight end, but I just don't see him repeating what he did last year. Pretty basic. So that's the last bust for this video. Now time to go on to the booms of 2018, in my opinion. All right, coming in first for the booms of this season, I have my man Chris Hogan. Now you guys know I'm a Patriots fan, but I'm not biased. I keep my heart out of it in fantasy football. I look at everything just analytically, and if you take a look at the numbers, guys, he played only 9 games last season, yet he tied Brandon Cooks for red zone targets, who played the entirety of the season last year with Tom Brady. Also, with the games that he was playing, the 9 games that he played, he had more red zone targets than Rob Gronkowski. I mean, Rob Gronkowski is a red zone beast, probably the biggest threat in the NFL in the red zone, but Tom Brady threw the ball more to Chris Hogan in the red zone than he did to Rob Gronkowski. That is a great sign. He really doesn't get injured too often. He got injured last year, but as long as he stays in the field, he is a legit receiver, and you have to think for the first 4 games of the season, they're missing Julian Edelman, and then you're going to have to think that once Jules is back, they're probably going to want to ease him into the offense. They're not just going to throw him right in there like he never left. And even when all cylinders are clicking on that offense, he really is still a legit wide receiver too in fantasy football. Week in and week out, Tom Brady just loves throwing him the ball, and he's a playmaker, man. He gets a lot of touchdowns. So Chris Hogan, I think he's going late. He has an ADP of 70 on fantasypros.com. So nothing much more to say. I think he's going to have a great season this year. All right, coming up next, we have Tariq Cohen for the Chicago Bears, the running back. But actually, there's been a lot of reports coming out lately saying that they're going to use him as more of a receiving back and a slot receiver on that offense rather than just a runner back, which is actually a very good sign for fantasy owners, especially in PPR leagues. He just has too much talent just to be hitting on the bench and getting a limited amount of touches a game as a running back. So apparently, he's been doing very well this year in preseason, and the Chicago Bears want to give him a different and a bigger role this year. Because we saw in the beginning of last season, he really, he kind of blew up, and a lot of people picked him up real fast or traded for him, and then he really kind of just died down for the majority of the season. But he showed a flash. He showed a flash that he might have what it takes. So I actually drafted him in my main league, but I drafted him real late. He's hiding on my bench. Not a bad player to have on your bench, and if you have a really deep league with like more than 12 teams, he's definitely a legit flex player, and you never know, he could be a runner back too. I'm really looking forward to see what he's going to do this year, and all the reports I see online shows that he's going to have a much bigger role this year than he did last year, which is why he's labeled a boom, and he's going, what is he going? 85th overall, so not a bad spot to pick him up. All right, and finishing up the video, we have my man Mark Ingram. He has an ADP of 51, but we're talking about a guy who, if he didn't have this 4-game suspension, he would be an early second-round draft pick. I mean, this guy just went off last year. I actually owned him last year in fantasy football. He had like over 12 touchdowns, a bunch of receptions, a bunch of receiving yards, a bunch of rushing yards. He just really has a big role in this New Orleans offense. Now, I know it's the year of Alvin Kamara. Everyone's talking about Kamara. Some people are taking him first overall in drafts. Kamara's going to have a big year. But let's not forget that he had a big year last year too, and he had a big role in that offense last year, and Mark Ingram still went off for like 1,500 total yards. You're talking about receiving and rushing, and 12 touchdowns, and a boatload of receptions. Guys, he is still the real deal. He's going to come back from this 4-game suspension. I'm pretty sure they have like a bye week in week 6, so we might actually not see him till like week 7. They might just make him sit out week 5. But I mean, if you can just wait and hold on to him, I mean, he's going in the 5th, 6th round in most drafts. If you can just storm away on your bench, treat him like he's just an injured player, storm away, and he comes out week 7 through the playoffs, and if you can make it to the Super Bowl, guys, he is a legit runner back 1 fantasy football runner back. This guy puts up numbers. He was actually statistically my best player on my team last year. Guys, storm away. If you can get him in the 5th round, that's a steal. Storm away, forget you had him, and then whip him out. Bam! Throw him up on someone week 7, and you're going to be killing it. I think he's going to come back just like he never left. It's not like he's coming off of an injury. All right, it'd be a different thing if he was coming off an ACL tear. Guys, he's coming off a suspension. This guy is ready to go right now. And that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys agree, disagree, leave your opinions down in the comment section. And like always, if you guys haven't already subscribed, I'd appreciate if you click that subscribe button, show your boy some love, and maybe check out some more videos on my channel.